Here we are, staring at the foot of the Isengard Citadel, waiting for that lone +5 to appear every 5 seconds real time. That is our resource gain from the Citadel. We need more resources for battle, and we're gonna find out how to get such resources in this episode. You can already hear other sounds going on in the background, showing that it is not just the Citadel that is fueling the fires of production. Greetings, Soulswind here, and welcome to Let's Play Lord of the Rings: The Battle for Middle-earth. This is a featurette video, and in this video we are going to take a look at resources, particularly resource production buildings. Now let's zoom out. You can already hear that there are more things going on, and we see some production structures. And for this episode, we're going to split the resource production structures up to two sides. One side is the evil side, the Mordor and Isengard, and the other, the good side, Rohan and Gondor. Why? Because they do share almost every production structure. I mean, at least for the evil side. As usual, we start with the evil side, and we're only going to show those structures in the Isengard representation because they look the same, they function the same, at least as far as I know, so correct me if I'm wrong. But here, we don't need to show them in the Mordor representation because they look the same, and like I said, they function the same. Let us start with the slaughterhouse. It generates food, one of the most basic resource production line. By generating food, people need to eat, so naturally we relate food to resources, right? To build a slaughterhouse, it costs 350 resources. However, because we have lumber mills, it only costs 315, but note that it costs 350 as a base cost. So let's start the construction first, and we can see the construction going on while I talk more about the slaughterhouse. The slaughterhouse is available for both the Isengard and the Mordor faction, and they look exactly the same, they function exactly the same, so I'm only showing the Isengard representation of the slaughterhouse. Now that it's built, the slaughterhouse has got 3 ranks, and as it generates more food and more resources, it gains experience, as we can see here in this little corner here. When the experience bar is filled, it levels up to rank 2. So what does it do? What does rank really do for us? Well, at rank 1, the slaughterhouse generates plus 15 resources every 5 seconds. That increases to 18 at rank 2 and 20 at rank 3. Slaughterhouses also provides another benefit, that is, to reduce the costs of warg riders. For every slaughterhouse that we have after the first one, we get an increase in percentage on the reduction in cost for warg riders, from 10% with 2 slaughterhouses up to 30% with 6 or more slaughterhouses. So if we were to consider getting mounted warriors, well, warg riders, then we should prioritize building slaughterhouses. So one other benefit of slaughterhouses is that we can build them on settlement foundations like these. We can only build either slaughterhouses or lumber mills. So we don't really have to spend the all-important foundations at outposts or bases to build slaughterhouses, but we can build them outside. Before we go into aesthetics to conclude slaughterhouses, I want to talk about one more thing that slaughterhouses serve. And we're back with a few of these soldiers. Now, one other purpose of slaughterhouse would be to get rid of soldiers that we might have accidentally created, or we want to change our troop deployment tactics. What we can do is that we can select soldiers and then tell them to enter the slaughterhouse, maybe this one. You see? Not only do we release the command points so that we can field other types of troops, but also we get a lot of resources. Any foot soldier from the Uruk side can be told to enter the slaughterhouse. That also includes the orc laborers from the lumber mills. More on orc laborers later, but also we have got warg riders here that cannot go into the slaughterhouses. Similarly, mountain trolls cannot go into the slaughterhouses, neither can the Haradrim warriors. So only mortal orcs or Isengard Uruks. And here we are again. Now this is rank 1, about to be rank 2. Note that it's got 1500 HP, while the rank 2 has got 3000 HP, the rank 3 slaughterhouse 4500 HP. However, if you were to take a look at aesthetics, there is no difference between the rank 1 and the rank 2. Alright? HP differences, resource generation differences, but otherwise pretty much the same. Rank 3, however, has some differences, namely a tower added to this side building. So is that only an aesthetic difference? Not exactly. The tower fires arrows at encroaching enemies, giving slaughterhouses some form of defense. But why did I not cover this as base defense? Well, that's because we need to wait for the slaughterhouses to rank up to rank 3, and that would take a lot of time. Typically, we want base defenses to be available right away as we build them. So yeah, they do provide some sort of defense once they reach rank 3, and that's a really nice defense to have to add on to the keep or the sentry towers that we have for Isengard, as well as the lack of keep for Mordor bases. Now let's move on to the next resource production structure, the furnace. To build a furnace, it costs 350 resources. Again, because we have got lumber mills, it costs only 315. So let's construct the furnace and let's switch off the HUD. Now, the furnace provides not only resources at 15 per 5 seconds real time, but it also gives an extra benefit in that as we get more furnaces, it starts to reduce the costs of providing upgrades for our soldiers. There is more reduction in costs for the upgrades, starting from 10% at 2 furnaces to 40% at 6 or more furnaces. So, should we just go for all slaughterhouses once we're done with the upgrades for our units? Well, not exactly. There's one more benefit for building furnaces instead of slaughterhouses. A furnace is 3000 HP at rank 1 as compared to 1500 for a rank 1 slaughterhouse. A rank 2 furnace is 4500 HP as compared to the 3000 for slaughterhouse, and a rank 3 furnace is 6500 HP as compared to 4500 for the slaughterhouses. So the increased HP for the furnaces makes an Isengard or Mordor base tankier as compared to having mostly or all slaughterhouses. Not only that, if you were to take a look at the aesthetics, this is a rank 1 and this is a rank 2. They look the same, but for rank 3 furnace, look at this. There is a tower again, and it shoots arrows, thereby providing the base with some sort of defense. These arrows are a lot more potent because of the increased health of a furnace. The 2000 increased HP of a rank 3 furnace as compared to a rank 3 slaughterhouse really does make Isengard or Mordor base a lot more beefy. Well, if we were to look at the animations for this furnace, it is just molten iron pouring out and then cooling and then being poured over onto the floor. Now, I want to mention something else though. If you were to take a look at the workers here, these are all orc laborers. Despite this faction being Isengard faction, they still employ orc laborers. Whatever I've just covered for the furnace works for both Isengard and Mordor. Now let us move on to the third resource production structure for the evil faction. Lumber mills. To build a lumber mill, we need to find a settlement foundation or a settlement. It can only be built at settlements. So let's build them. A lumber mill costs 200 resources, but thanks to the reduction in costs for construction, if we have more lumber mills, it's only costing us 180 resources. The idea of a lumber mill is just gathering wood for resources, and that's kinda very logical explanation to resource gathering again, as compared to the furnace, which is like producing iron. Well, I guess maybe too, but that's more advanced, sure. Lumber mill though, very basic. Get lumber to build things, right? So resource, yeah, nice. A lumber mill has got 1500 HP and serves more purposes than just provide resources. Well, firstly, it generates 15 resources every time an orc laborer returns a wooden log to the lumber mill. The highest rate it can generate resources would be 5 seconds real time. However, that rate can decrease as the nearby trees get depleted by the orc laborers. So how can we counter that? By training more laborers here. Each orc laborer costs 20 resources and 1 command point. They help us to gather resources, just like these 4 orc laborers that are provided when we first construct the lumber mill. If the lumber mill goes under attack and we lose orc laborers, we can easily replenish them by training more orc laborers. Once trained, the orc laborers will automatically fan out from the lumber mill to gather nearby trees, or rather wood. But note that every orc laborer that we produce would cost us 1 man point. Thankfully, these orc laborers can be sent to the slaughterhouses once we do not have any more need for them. Orc laborers have got 30 health each, and they've got some other commands here. They can be told to harvest resources, they can be told to stop, they can be told to guard, and they can be told to attack. They also serve another purpose, and that is to repair structures. So any structures that are damaged, we can select them and then right click on the structure to repair those structure. This cursor though, when we have the orcs selected, tells them to return resources to this lumber mill, not like what happens when we see slaughterhouses. Casting an action command on the slaughterhouse would tell them to enter the slaughterhouse, but here is different. Alright, so if we have got orc laborers that are not assigned to any lumber mills, we can use this function, select them and right click to assign them to a lumber mill. We can also tell them to harvest specific trees by hovering over said tree or trees when they're selected. So when there are a lot of trees around the lumber mill, then there is no need to have more orc laborers because they'll just be waiting, as you can see here. So it's inefficient and it's a bad use of resources and command points. But as the trees get depleted, it's a good thing to hire more orc laborers or to convert say settlement plot into a slaughterhouse, especially since by then we might not need the reduction in construction costs provided by a higher number of lumber mills. Now, to go into the detail for the lumber mills, from the 2nd to the 4th lumber mill, it goes from 10% reduction in cost of buildings to 30% reduction in cost of buildings. A lumber mill has got 1500 HP at rank 1 and looks like this at rank 1 because we can't do a side-by-side comparison. And where's my rank 2 lumber mill? I think it's here. Yep, that's my rank 2 lumber mill. The rank 2 lumber mill has got 3000 HP and generally looks about the same as rank 1. I mean, it looks identical actually. I don't see any differences. While this would be also a rank 2. Okay, never mind. That's about to be rank 3 here. So yeah, it's still rank 2. I'll meet you back here when it reaches rank 3. Anyway, whatever I've covered for the lumber mill applies to both the Isengard and the Mordor faction. And there we have it, a rank 3 lumbermill with a tower added. This affords lumbermills a little bit more defense while it's out in the open, although orc laborers are able to fight, so when in a pinch we're able to produce more orc laborers to help the rank 3 lumbermills. But if not, we can always lose the lumbermill and then reconstruct it again once we've dealt with threats. Oh, why did I destroy the lumbermill? Note that the destruction of a lumbermill doesn't remove these orc laborers from the game. Did you see them walking over to another lumbermill? As long as there are lumbermills still on the map, they will find the next nearest lumbermill to deposit their lumber. Constructing a lumbermill, ta-dang, takes up another 4 command points and gives us 4 new orc laborers. So what happens then if we were to destroy all of our lumber camps or lumber mills? Now, if we see here, they are wandering aimlessly around the settlement because there are no more lumber mills. However, this command point still stays. They still consume command points. So, once we're out of trees on the map, slaughterhouses become very important for us. We need to send the orc laborers into the slaughterhouses so as to free up the command points. Now that's it for the evil faction resource structures. Well, not exactly. One last thing. Remember, the citadels do provide a +5 resource every 5 seconds. So that is more resources for us. The more outposts we have, the more camps and castles we have, the more resources we get from the citadels. It's only +5, but they do add up. We're done with Isengard and Mordor resource production structures. Now let us move on to the good side and see what we can do to generate resources. Oh, and also rank 1 lumber mills 1500 HP, or rank 2 lumber mills 3000 HP, and a rank 3 lumber mill is still 3000 HP. Something that's pretty interesting as well. And now for the good side, of course, farms, right? Food. And for Rohan, it's only farms. I'm not gonna show the farm here yet, but just a quick display of how it looks like as a rank 3. And just take note of this banner here, this flag here. That's the only difference they have between Gondor and Rohan, alright? Rohan does not have any other resource production structures. And yeah. Oh, and another use of the Rohan farm, we can train Rohan peasants from here. They cost 100 resources and 10 command points. The main purpose would be to repair buildings, but we'll go into that in more detail when we talk about the Rohan peasants. Not this episode. And here we are with the Gondor faction. Now, farms. Basic resource generation structure for Gondor and Rohan, and to build them it costs 350 resources. It provides food as a resource and reduces costs of cavalry as we get more farms. Now, farms are buildable for both Gondor and Rohan, as you've just seen a few seconds ago. And it's quite logical, you know, food production as a source of resource. 15 for rank 1, 18 for rank 2, this is still rank 1, almost rank 2, and this is rank 3, ta-dang, rank 2, and then rank 3 here. So you can see that's 18 here and 20 here. Now let's look at more differences here. Health of 1500 for a rank 1 Gondor farm, and a rank 2 Gondor farm is 3000 health, and the rank 3 Gondor farm is 5000 health. Now for other benefits, as I've mentioned, it reduces the cost of cavalry from 10% at 2 farms up to 30% at 6 or more farms. So unless we want to use cavalry, there's no good reason to build Gondor farms. Or is there? Firstly, let's take a look at the aesthetics of the farms. A rank 1 farm looks like this. A rank 2 farm looks more defensive with these walls walling up the cottage in the center and the spikes on the walls. Now for a rank 3 farm, it's not only got the spikes and the walls, but it's also got one more level to the farm. Do they shoot arrows though? No, they don't. So we can't depend on farms, even at level 3, to defend a base or defend themselves. Now let's take a look at the other way to generate resources, and that is the Gondor Blacksmith. It costs 400 resources to build a Gondor Blacksmith. The other purpose of a Gondor Blacksmith, other than to produce resources, would be to provide upgrades for our soldiers. But before we go into the upgrades, now that it's completed, just want to show you that the upgrades are not available. Why? Strange, right? They're supposed to provide upgrades, but it's only for a rank 2 blacksmith. Yeah, that's something that we need to remember. We can't just build a blacksmith and be able to upgrade our units. Blacksmiths serve to reduce the cost of upgrades, so the more blacksmiths there are, the more cost reduction, from 10% at 2 blacksmiths to 40% at 6 blacksmiths or more. The cost of upgrades refers to the upgrade cost on each of the units themselves, not the research cost for the upgrades. Now a blacksmith has got, at rank 1, has got 3000 health, and at rank 2 it's 4500 health, rank 3 6000 health. So it's a little bit lesser than, I think, the 6500 health of the furnace for the Isengard and Mordor, but still a good choice to build if you want the base to be generally tankier. Again, just like the farms, they do not fire arrows at level 3 or rank 3. Also, Gondor blacksmiths are available to Gondor. Rohan does not have blacksmiths. So comparing the two good factions, I think Gondor seems to be the better option here. Anyway, level 1 or rank 1 blacksmith generates 15 resources per 5 seconds. Level 2 or rank 2 blacksmith generates 18 resources per 5 seconds. And at rank 3, 20 resources per 5 seconds. F9. Okay. This is a rank 1 smithy. It looks like this. Looks quite undefended. It's just a blacksmith hammering away at a weapon that he's forging, and then casts it back into the burning coal to heat up the metal again, and then continue forging the weapon. Now a rank 2 blacksmith, okay, sorry for that. A rank 2 blacksmith here looks more defended with the walls here and the weapons laid outside. It's pretty realistic in a way that, you know, soldiers of Gondor would just be like grabbing these weapons in times of war, so they wouldn't want to go into the building to get the weapons. They want to have these accessible, and if they're accessible by the enemies, by then, I mean, the base is gone, right? So yeah. But it looks much better than the rank 1. However, we have the rank 3. Let's look at the rank 3 here. Ta-da! Well, it looks pretty much the same out front, but the little tower here gives it a little bit more of an imposing look, you know, like it feels more guarded, more defensive and impressive. And of course the flag matters here. Oh, and I almost forgot the banner here. This is more of a triangular banner, while the other one looks a little more curved. Yeah, this is just a triangular banner, right? So that's the only difference between a Gondor farm and a Rohan farm. Oh wait, no, the other difference is that you can train Rohan peasants in a Rohan farm, but you don't get to train anything here at the Gondor farm. They both reduce costs of the cavalry. Now we get more economical benefits as Gondor. Through the Gondor marketplace costs 1,500 resources to build, and the marketplace provides economical upgrades that would improve our resource gathering rates. The marketplace does not rank up, and it is also limited to the Gondor faction, so the Rohan does not have the marketplace. Also, before the marketplace is built, I just want to mention that the marketplace has to exist despite having completed the upgrades that they provide in order for the upgrades to be functional or be active. So suppose you conduct an upgrade and the upgrade's completed, it is active if the marketplace is torn down, and if there are no marketplaces that remain standing in the Gondor kingdom, then those upgrades lose their effect until a new marketplace is built. Now you can see how cool the construction process is for the Gondor marketplace. One segment at a time, and that is just really nice. Like I mentioned before in the base defense episode, it's really nice to see these processes going into the design efforts for the building. With the marketplace completed, let's see what we have available to us. Firstly, we have got the siege materials that we've covered in the base defense episode. So, destroyed structures refund 50% of the costs, but the player must have marketplace to use this upgrade. Like I said, it must remain standing despite having researched the upgrades, and it costs 500 to research this. What about the economical upgrades? We have got the iron ore. It costs 1,500 resources to research, and with this, it gives a plus 50% iron production from blacksmiths. So, you know, the 15, 18, and 20, it will be improved once we have this upgraded. While it's upgrading, let's take a look at this. The Grand Harvest. The Grand Harvest also costs 1,500 resources, but instead affects the farms. It gives a 50% resource increment from farms. But there is a difference here. For the iron ore, it is not stated that we need the marketplace to be standing for the effect to take place. However, for Grand Harvest, we must have a marketplace for the bonus from farms to be active. So if you were to research this, and we can take a look at the improved resource generation rates at the farms, and then delete the marketplace and see the difference. Now if we take a look at this, we see a 22 for rank 1 smithy, and then we see a 27 for rank 2 smithy, and a 30 for a rank 3 smithy. So that is a lot more resources. For farms, let's take a look. Again, 22, 30, and 30. Yeah, that's because they're both rank 3, but it's actually 27 and 30. Alright, now let's tear down the marketplace. Let's take a look at the farms again. See? It reverts back to 15. And it reverts back to 18. No, this is 20, yeah, because it's rank 3, and this is also 20 because it's rank 3, so it would be 18 at rank 2. However, for the blacksmith, it also reverts back to 15, and 18, and 20. We can see here that even the blacksmiths are affected when we tear down the marketplace. So the tooltip is wrong. It's 15, 18, and 20 again. And I think that's about all for the economy of Gondor and Rohan, because Rohan just simply do not have any blacksmiths. However, Gondor and Rohan both have citadels and they do generate resources, so build more outposts and camps whenever necessary to take advantage of the resource gathering from the citadels. Well, that's about it for this episode. We're done with all of these resource gathering structures. I hope you found this episode useful, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for watching. That's all I have for now. Have a nice day. Anyway, how do they get up to the tower? There's no ladders. Well, as compared to the ladders here for Slaughterhouse, you see there's a ladder to get onto the tower and another ladder here to get onto the tower over here. Yeah. Kind of strange, right? But also, just in case, because I forgot to showcase the aesthetics for this. So here you go. Yeah, kind of strange, right?